Hi, welcome back to the Graphic Design Masterclass. And in this lesson, I'm going to be taking you through the Photoshop interface. Now, Photoshop is a design software that helps you to create wonderful, very expressive art for your clients and for yourself. And it is just very important that you get to know what each part of this software does. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into Photoshop. Right, so now we're in the Photoshop software. And when you open a new file, when you want to start working on a new file, this is typically what you get, depending on the version you're using. So on the left hand side, we have our tools bar, and on the right hand side, we have all of our panels. Each of these are called panels, right? So you have the color panel, the swatches panel, gradients panel, the layers panel, channels panel, parts panel, and each of these have different functions that you perform. Okay, I'm going to get into all of that later. And then in the middle here, we have your canvas. This is where the design work that you're doing is seen, right? So we have a canvas here. But before we get to this, let's quickly just run through how the Photoshop looks like when you just open up the software. So I'm going to close this for just a second. I'm going to open it up again. Now, when you open new versions of Photoshop, I mean something from like 2017 or 2018, they usually have this very beautiful interface. Previously, it would just open you up to the canvas and you have to now create new. But now it shows your previous work in a more, nice, UI, user interface. Now, here, what you can see a create new button, you can see open button, and you can see the home button, right? Now, the create new button is what you click on when you want to start a new project, right? A new project from scratch. While the open button is the button you click when you want to open a project you already started. Let me show you an example of what that means. So when I click here, it's going to open up my file explorer. And then I can look for a Photoshop document which I was working on and open that. Let's pick one of those we've worked on. Yeah, I could open this up. A picture I was working on, right? So now that opens up a project you already started, or a file that you want to use, a resource, a picture, an illustration, an icon that you want to use. So that's what you use for that. Let's go back to our welcome screen. Now, when you click on the create new menu, this is what you typically get. There's this the left side shows like preset document sizes that you could use. So I have A5, my custom made A4 and all of that. So if you're working on, let's say, print, you can just click on print, and it's going to bring you to all of these pre-made or preset print options. So you could choose any of them. Maybe you want to work on a flyer that is A4, on a brochure that is A3 and all of that, if you know about all of that. But if not, you want to create something that is custom to yourself, you come to the left hand side and you impute the figures you want. So let's say you want to create something for social media. The social media is usually 1080 by 1080. That's a square for Instagram and Facebook and all of that. So I'll enter that. And this is in inches. It could be in pixels, it could be in centimeters, meters, points, picas, depending on which part of the world you are. I'm going to be using pixels for this. I'm going to be using 1080 by 1080, which is going to give us a square, right? 1080. Now, resolution, well, personally, I use between 200 to 300 resolution. That's pixels per inch. But some people say you can use 72 for things that are going to be viewed online, while you use like higher resolution for things that will be printed and all of that. But I personally choose to stay within the range of 200 and 300. For this project, I'm going to put it at 250. And then once you're done with all of this, you can click create. A new feature that's come with newer Photoshop version is the artboard feature. Now, artboard means you can work on like multiple design canvas in the same file. I'm going to show you what that means in a bit. So I'm just going to check this artboard option and click on create. Now, if I did not check the artboard options, you will not see this artboard text at the top of it. But because I clicked the artboard options, that's why I have this. So let me show you what the artboard option means before we even get into all of the other tools. Now, if you right click on this first tool here, there are two tools here. You have the move tool and the artboard tool. The artboard tool allows you to create more canvases in the same file, right? So let me show you what that can do. So now I have artboard 1. I can just literally come here, drag, and create another artboard, right? So let's say I created a design for this. Let me quickly just create something, right? Fill it a color. Right? I could have this here, and then I could have another artboard. You see that? And I can keep designing and keep having multiple artboards and on and on and on. But that is not what I want to do for now. So I'll just close this file. And how to close a file, you can either come to this how to close a file, you can either come to this close button here and just click that, and no, since I'm not saving it. Or you can just press Ctrl W as a shortcut and click no, right? So let's create a new project from scratch, which we're going to be using to show forth our tools. And so I'm going to use both the open and the create new option. So when I click create new, I'll use 1080p by 1080p, all of the parameters we used initially, and click create. Now I'm also going to go back by going back to this home page, and I'm going to click on this flyer. This is a wonderful flyer by one of the best graphic designers in Africa. His name is Caesar Graphics. You can check out his Instagram for inspirations on design. Now, and the reason why I selected this is because we're going to be using some of these tools which I'm going to be introducing you to in this class. So the first tool you have in the Photoshop interface is the move tool. Now what the move tool does is literally what its name implies. It is used for moving things around. So let's say, for example, I draw a shape, I draw a square, and I draw a rectangle, and then just a lot of things, right? Now when I want to move this guy from here to here, I can use my move tool. Can you see that? This looks like a logo already. So the move tool is usually just for moving things. You just click, hold, and drag. Click, hold, and drag, and you can move things around. Now you can move things within one canvas that you're working on, or you can move it from this work to this place. I can move it from this to this place. Another thing you must have noticed is that once we open a new file, it has its own tab, just like a browser tab at the top here. If I open another one, there's another tab here. Let me open another one. And let's see if that will have another tab here. You see, this has another tab here, Feroz, and all of this and all of that. So let's get back to the move tool. So the move tool is used for moving things around, basically. So I can use it to move things within this canvas I'm working on, or I can use it to move from this canvas to another canvas. So how to use the move tool? Click, drag, and drop. Did you see that? Click, drag, and drop, right? So that's what the move tool is used for. The second tool on the tools bar in Photoshop is the rectangular marquee tool. Now, in discussing this, I would just like to group all of them into one class. I call them the selection tools. So the selection tools are used for picking parts of a design or a piece of work that you want to use. Now let me explain what that means. Now under selection tool, you have the rectangular selection tool, you have the elliptical marquee tool, You have the lasso tool, you have the polygon tool, magnetic lasso tool, quick selection tool, object selection, magic wand, quite a number of them. But I'm going to show you how to use some of them because you generally wouldn't need to use all of them when you're designing. Okay, so let me come here. Let me delete this. You can delete by pressing just the backspace or dragging it to this basket. Now, for example, I want to select, when I come to the selection tool, the first selection tool usually is the marquee tool. Now, how to open up other tools under a tool that you select is just by right-clicking, right? Right-click, and to open it up. So we have the rectangular selection, marquee tool. Now, let me show you what that can do. Let's say I want to select this 10 a.m. and use it in a new design. All I have to do is drag over it, right? Click and drag. And once I've selected it, how do I move it? I'll go to my move tool. Remember the move tool we talked about? And use it to drag this guy out of here and drag it here. You see that? I use the move tool to drag. So all of these shapes work hand in hand. So that's what I've done. You can use the rectangular marquee tool. Is best used when you have shapes that are either rectangles or squares. Okay, so it will help you to have that accuracy around the edges. That is the rectangular marquee tool. The elliptical marquee tool also does the same thing, but now it works just with circles, right? So for example, I'll just click and drag over this lady. Now, when you want to have like a perfect circle, hold down shift. The same thing for the rectangular tool. When you want to have a square, hold down shift. But I want to have a perfect circle, I'll just hold down this shift and select this lady. And then use my move tool. I'll come here, click here, or you can use the shortcut V rather. You can use the shortcut V and just drag this out and place it here. You see that? Right? Let me scale this up a bit. So we use just that marquee tool, the elliptical marquee tool to select that. The next selection tool we have is the lasso tool. It is the next after this our rectangular and elliptical marquee tool. So the lasso tool is used, like you can just use it to drag around an object. Can you see even Photoshop gives you like a little info about what it can do. So let me show you how we can use that in this example. Say I want to select this airplane, right? I'll just come, because the marquee tool is very angular, it will help me to pick all of the edges. Can you see that? Let me zoom into that. All right, pick this, pick this, pick this, pick this, pick this. Now I've selected, I've done my selection. Right, see that? And I can use my move tool to move it out of here and put it somewhere else. See that? So that's what the lasso tool is used for. It's also selection tool. You can use it to select, you know, objects with angles. It is very good with objects with angles and all of that. Also, under the lasso tool, we have the next to the elliptical marquee tool, we have the lasso tool. The lasso tool is a freehand selection tool. That means it works, you click and keep dragging around what you want it to select. I usually do not use this tool because I mean it's kind of stressful for me to use, but I'll show you how it is used. For example, I want to select around this lady. I'll just keep dragging. Can you see that? It is going with my hand. So if you don't have a very steady hand, you might pick things out of proportion, right? And then move tool to move it. After the lasso tool, we have the polygon lasso tool. The polygon lasso tool is more angular. That means it allows you to pick edges, angles is better and easier, right? So for example, I want to pick, let me show you an example of what that can do. Let's open a new file. Now this table has a white background. Let's say I want to remove the background. I'll do that by selecting the background off, right? So I'll come to my polygon lasso tool because it's very angular. I'll come to this edge, click, and go to the next edge, click, 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 right? Unlock this layer, delete. Now it has a free, the background has been deleted. You can also use it to select just the table and drag it out for a design, right? Do you understand? So that is what the Polygon Lasso tool is for. Yeah. Now, the next selection tool I'll be talking about is the quick selection tool. This is my favorite tool for selecting objects. It's my favorite. I'm going to show you why. Now, the quick selection tool actually makes use of artificial intelligence because it allows the Photoshop this Photoshop tool uses an intelligence to pick which parts of an image are the edges, and it will just pick just that image out. Now, it is not accurate all times, but when you are dealing with pictures that are like very sharp, high-res pictures, it is very easy to use the quick selection tool. Let me give you an example of what that means. Now, using the picture of Andrew Bicello, I hope I didn't murder that name. Now, when you click on the quick selection tool, you can see this tool it's very small. Now, notice that as I'm dragging over this man, it is picking the edges that the artificial intelligence can deduce. And why can you see it's not picking outside that because this man is in focus, right? So you can use this tool basically when the object you want to select is in focus, or there's high contrast between the object you want to pick and the background. It's a very useful tool. Can you see that? It's picking. It might not be perfect with the edges, but I mean it's picking the main image that I want to use, right? Let me just drag this out with my move tool and let's see what we have. Can you see that? This is how you cut out pictures from backgrounds. Right? See that? See that? See that? See that? See that? So that is the quick selection tool. You can always practice with all of these tools to get familiar with them. Now, a very new one that Photoshop brought into the game is called the object selection tool. Now, the object selection tool does literally what the quick selection tool does, but in an automatic way. Now, let me show you what that means. All I have to do is drag around the object I want to select, and I leave Photoshop to do the rest for me. Can you see? It picked literally the same thing that our quick selection tool did. Our quick selection tool did. Can you see that? But I didn't have to drag over. I didn't have to start dragging over the image. I just had to select the area I wanted it to pick the object from. Can you see that? And it did that for me. So that is the direct, the object selection tool. Okay, let's also use, let's go through to the next tool called the crop tool. The crop tool, everyone is familiar with this. We all edit pictures on our phones and all of that. The crop tool just helps you to, pick certain areas of a picture, right? Crop out the parts you don't want, yeah? So it might be very important when you're doing things like photography and, probably editing some graphics too. All right, so that's the crop tool. Another very important tool that you must know is the eyedropper tool. The eyedropper tool allows you to pick colors from objects. Let's say you want to work on a project and you like the color scheme from something. Let's say I'm working on a coffee project and I like this wooden feel. I can pick the colors on this wood by just using the color dropper tool, the eyedropper tool rather, by clicking the eyedropper tool and selecting those parts of this picture that I like the color. I can pick this. Okay, so that is going to reflect that in my bag, and it's going to reflect that in my foreground color, right? Can you see that? It's all going to reflect in my foreground color. So it's used for picking colors, the eyedropper tool. The next one that I think is very important you should know is the brush tool. Now, the brush tool has numerous uses. It can be used for painting. You can use it for adding highlights and quite a number of things. I just think you should know about it. Let me create a new, let me show you what that can do. Can you see that? Let me use a darker color, right? You can use it for painting. You can use it for adding shadows. Quite a number of things I might not be able to cover in this class, but that is the brush tool. Okay. Another important tool you should know about is the clone stamp tool. Now, the clone stamp tool takes a lot of practice. I'm going to show you what that means. So, the word cloning in itself means creating a duplication of something. Now, for example, let's say I want to create the duplication of this area, and probably I want to clean off this man's head without making it look so bizarre. I could use the clone stamp tool. So how do you use the clone stamp tool? You click on that tool, the clone stamp tool. You come to the area that you want to replicate. You hold down your Alt key and select that area, and then go to the area you want to clone over and just paint, literally. Can you see that? Now, this is going to look like magic, right? But it's just the clone stamp tool doing its work. Now, this is not very clean, but I mean, I hope you get the idea of what the clone stamp tool can do, right? So you can use it to remove blemishes, you can use it to clean up images. That's what it's used for, removing pimples and all of those skin stuff when doing photography, editing, and photo manipulation sometimes. Right, so that's the clone stamp tool. Another very important tool you should know about is the eraser tool. The eraser tool does exactly what it says. It is used for cleaning up stuff, right? For example, I have this nice big circle. Let's say I want to clean off some part of it for whatsoever reason. All I have to do is come to the eraser tool, right click, eraser tool, and just clean, right? Clean. Clean, 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 clean. So it's used for cleaning stuff, basically. Also, there's this very interesting tool under the eraser tool, which I'd like to show you. It's also a kind of selection tool, but it does the selection by erasing some parts off. So let me show you what that can do. Now, I have this image here. When I click my magic eraser tool, it will pick a shade. Just this, if I want to remove this color, it will pick everywhere where this color appears, especially in this area that I'm selecting, and delete it so that I can select what is underneath. So let me show you what that means. So once I'm on my magic eraser tool and I click here, can you see that? It selects just that single shade of color and deletes it. Can you see that? Can you see that? And just with the magic eraser tool, I'm almost selecting the shoe out. I hope you get how this works. Now, all of these tools, you have to rehearse them and make use of them over and over and over again to get the perfect hang of them. It takes time, but at least you're getting introduced to them now, right? So that's the magic eraser tool. Another tool is called the gradient tool. This is the gradient tool, right? It is used for creating gradient. A gradient is a blend between two or more colors. Let me show you what that means. So instead of filling my background with just black, can you see that? I can decide to use a gradient, which is now the gradient I have here selected. Let me look for one very nice gradient. There are multiple gradients here. Once I drag over here, it's going to use those two. See? We have there are different types of gradients. We have the linear gradient, we have the radial gradient, we have the reflected gradient, we have the angle gradient. All of these are at the top here. You can just check each of them and see what they do. See that? That is that. Another very important tool for you is the pen tool. Now, the pen tool can be used for various reasons. Number one, it can be used for drawing shapes, and it can also be used for selection. But I'm just going to use it for drawing shapes today. We might cover for selection in another class. Can you see that? Let's say I want to create you, right? This. See that? I can fill this up, make it a shape. Fill it with, right? Let me do that again. So select shape, make sure you're drawing a shape, right? Can you see that? So I can use this to draw shapes. Fill it with black. We might have to do like an in-depth class on shapes later, but this is just an introduction to what the shape tool can do. Help you understand that. Another very important tool is a type tool. Type tool. This is where you use for doing all of your typing in design, right? Let's do an example. Once you click on the type tool, you click here. It's going to give you this placeholder text. You can change the color. Let me use a red. Graphics. Enter. Design. Master class. Right? Now you see that they are all spaced out, and this brings me to this editing part where you can click on this panel here, which brings out all of these other extra things you can do with your text. You can adjust the space in between them, right? You can adjust the space within each word. Can you see that? You can change your font to whatever it is you want. You can increase the font size from here. Set this to auto. And do a lot of other things. You can change to italics and do a lot of crazy stuff here. But as you explore these tools, you get to know them better. Okay. So this is the type tool. The last tool I'll be talking about, which I think is very important, is your shapes tool. The shapes tool gives you a wide range of shapes that you can use in making designs. For example, it has an ellipse tool, which is a circle. Can fill once you do anything that has to do with shapes, you are usually given two options: a fill and a stroke. Now, a fill means the color within the object, and a stroke means a color around the object, right? So the stroke color, I can change this to red. That looks too harsh. Let's use this. Whatever. Let's use this. You see, so we have a fill color and a stroke color. The fill color is the color within. The stroke color is the color around, right? So that's what happens when you use shapes. So we can put this here. Let me use another shape here. Okay. You see that? You see that? You can also manipulate these shapes to your taste depending on what you want to achieve, but we're not going to be doing that now. This is just an introductory class. So that's what the shape tool. There are numerous shapes here. In fact, when you click under this custom shape tool, there's still a lot of shapes that you can access. You know, we have the tree. So under the custom shape, we have numerous shapes that you could use. You know, we have leaves, we have wild animal, boats. You can also download shapes and add them to, you know, your file and afterwards. So those are the basic tools that you actually need in making a design. And I'll just quickly do something, just something very fast, nothing really complex, using shapes, using the tools I've mentioned. So I've created my canvas. I'll go to my shape tool. First of all, I'll create a circle by left clicking on the shape tool and selecting ellipse tool. Now, to have a perfect circle, I have to hold down the shift button. So hold down the shift button and drag. The fill color is white, so we cannot see anything, and I think that's cool because I'm going to place something inside it. I'm going to change the stroke color to this. Is it teal? And change the size of the stroke to 3 or 4. So let me make it 10. See that? I can duplicate this by pressing Ctrl J, right? And I do a duplicate of that. Let me do another duplicate. Another duplicate. Can you see that? Those are my shape tools. Now to select everything, I'll just have to drag over them. And let's say I want to change the way they look, increase the size, reduce the size. It's called transformation. So I can use that by pressing Ctrl T to transform. And then, can you see that? I can also use this Ctrl T option. When I go to the edge of this, I can drag around. Can you see that? Drag around, rotate, increase the size, reduce the size, and all of that. Yeah, so that is that. What other tool did we talk about? We talked about selection tools. So guys, just go over those tools again, go over this class over and over and over again, and see what you can do for yourself with these tools that you've learned so far. I'm very sure that over time, with practice, you become a better designer using this Photoshop tool. And see in the next class, we'll be talking about some basic commands and also doing some basic graphics design practicals. I know that's what you've been waiting for, and I can't wait to get on that with you. See you in the next class. Bye.